A pleasant good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of the Multilateral Cooperation Center for Development Finance, MCDF, and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB, on the occasion of the 10th AIIB annual meeting, I welcome you all to this joint seminar on promoting high-quality cross-border infrastructure, experiences, and lessons from IFI practices. We are delighted to have all of you here as we witness our keynote speaker and distinguished panel of speakers discuss the importance of cross-border infrastructure as recognized by the G20, past successes and new frontiers in connectivity, as well as the launch of 2 flagship MCDF connectivity infrastructure reports, bridging Central and West Asia and the world, and catalyzing connectivity in Southeast Asia. My name is Jenny Lou Fernandez from MCDF, and I am honored to be your Master of Ceremonies throughout this seminar. Let me move on to the formal proceeding, starting with a keynote speech from Mr. Dongjing Wang, the inaugural Chief Executive Officer of MCDF. Before being appointed as CEO, he served as head of the Interim Secretariat, tasked with establishing the Multilateral Finance Facility. Mr. Wang is a global leader and advocate for high-quality connectivity infrastructure. Our CEO, Mr. Dongjing Wang, please.
So, Chairman Rahim Zoda, Deputy Minister Swana Chung-Kang, Executive Vice President Leoncini, Vice President Farrell, distinguished guests, dear colleagues, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all to this seminar on promoting high-quality cross-border infrastructure experiences and the license from international financial institutions' practices. Throughout human history, cross-border projects have played a critical role in the economic development of societies, shaping wider regional and global trade and wealth creation. Today, connectivity infrastructure continues to have transformative potential for many dimensions of sustainable development. Cross-border transport connectivity facilitates international trade, boosting economic growth and jobs. Cross-border energy connectivity enables clean energy resources to be fully harnessed and exported, reducing energy costs and facilitating energy transition. And the digital connectivity is increasingly essential for global competitiveness and inclusive development. However, the large size and the complexity of transboundary infrastructure projects means that this potential is not being fulfilled. The Multilateral Cooperation Center for Development Finance was therefore established in 2021 with the purpose to enhancing high-quality cross-border infrastructure investment through partnerships. Over the past 4 years and a half, MCDF has approved $55 million in grants supporting project feasibility studies, environmental, social, and financial assessment, capacity building, and knowledge sharing. These grants are expected to mobilize over $8.8 billion in infrastructure connectivity investment across Africa, Asia, and Latin America. I believe that this seminar is an important milestone in our journey towards a better connected world for 3 reasons. First, we are launching today 2 reports on IFI support for cross-border transport, energy, and digital infrastructure in Asia. One is focused on Central and West Asia, which bridges East and West. The other is focused on Southeast Asia, where IFIs have been playing a catalytic role in promoting regional cooperation and integration. Two reports lay out not only the big picture of the connectivity projects IFIs are financing, but also provide practical details from the project level on their impact and how IFIs coordinate with the countries and other financiers to develop and finance them. A key message is on the importance of soft infrastructure, the policies and institutions that facilitate the use of the hard infrastructure. IFIs constantly provide valuable support on policies and capacities alongside their loans, which is an integrated approach to address the key bottlenecks holding back trade and investment. I'm also delighted that through the peer review process, we were able to bring together the sectoral leads of the IFIs to agree on recommended priorities for both regions. This reflects MCDF's efforts in bringing IFIs together to maximize synergies. Second, it is the first time that we will hear publicly about the work that AIIB is doing for the G20 together with the World Bank and the African Development Bank on a practical toolkit to help developing countries to prepare and implement cross-border infrastructure. This is a follow-up on a report that they launched last year under the Brazilian presidency of the G20 on best practices for cross-border infrastructure. Third, a key message from both MCDF studies and those of AIIBs for the G20 is the importance of partnerships. The partnerships between neighboring countries to design and implement the infrastructure, the partnerships between financiers given that the size of cross-border projects is too big for any one financier to handle. I'm therefore delighted that this seminar brings together some of MCDF's most important partners to share their insights on connectivity. Chairman Rahim Zoda from Tajikistan represents our fast-growing portfolio in Central and Western Asia. This week, we approved a new funding proposal for a feasibility study of the Caspian Green Energy Corridor project, which will enable Central Asian countries to export power to Europe. Deputy Minister Suarnachol Mangkheng from Lao PDR represents Southeast Asia. We are proud of our support to the region, which include a road project in Lao PDR co-financed by AIIB and the Abu Dhabi Fund for Development. Director Hanuro from Egypt is a strong supporter of our work in Africa and the Middle East. The regions have received around 39% of our grants to help 40 countries prepare cross-border energy, transport, and digital projects and strengthen institutional capacity in the regions. Vice President Farrell of the World Bank represents our transformative partnership with 14 IFI members. We have greatly valued the World Bank's support to our knowledge events that have now reached nearly 7,000 people in 107 countries. Executive Vice President Leoncini from Latin America and the Caribbean Development Bank represents our strong relationship with the LAC region that is now receiving 35% of our grants to develop a number of innovative projects in 18 countries. With such strong partners, I'm sure that we will have an insightful discussion today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Wang, for those powerful and inspiring messages to open the seminar. The next part is the presentation of report key findings of MCDF's 2 flagship reports that we are launching today. We have provided your copies in your welcome kits if you wish to refer to. And for the Connectivity Infrastructure Report for Central and West Asia, we have the author, Mr. Shanbin Yao, Senior Advisor of MCDF. Mr. Yao is formerly a Special Senior Advisor to the President of Asian Development Bank. He had previously held other senior positions in AIIB. Shanbin, please approach the stage, please. Switch this to Shanbin, yeah. Thank you, Shanbin.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be launching the first 2 reports in MCDF's Connectivity Infrastructure Report Series, which seek to summarize how IFIs are supporting cross-border transport, energy, and digital infrastructure in particular regions, and share their recommendations for the future. In the next few minutes, I'll cover 4 points briefly: the study methodology, the broad trends of IFI financing as we have found across both regions, the unique role of IFIs in cross-border infrastructure, and an example of recent initiatives in the energy sector. A brief presentation will lose necessary nuances for a complex topic at hand. For this concern, I encourage you all to read the reports in detail, which you have been given as you walked in. In fact, it's all you have. On methodology, the study focuses on both hard and soft cross-border infrastructure projects financed by IFIs that have joined the MCDF collaboration platform. Project databases were developed based on IFI project documents available online, supplemented by information provided directly by some IFIs. IFI sector focals provided valuable peer reviews and jointly developed recommendations that are highlighted in the reports. On broad investment trends, AIIB and the World Bank are major financing partners. In Central and West Asia, they together accounted for 66% of total IFI financing. EBRD comes as a third for 17%. In Southeast Asia, AIIB and the World Bank together account for 84% of total IFI financing, with AIIB coming the third at 10%. Central and West Asia received significantly more IFI financing than Southeast Asia. The large volume of financing has been a consistent pattern until when it was possibly interrupted by COVID-19. For Southeast Asia, the financing spike in 2019 was due to one single largest project in the Philippines that aimed to improve national connectivity with major cross-border impacts. IFIs have focused on financing cross-border transport infrastructure in both regions, which accounts for 85% in Southeast Asia and 65% in Central and West Asia. In Central and West Asia, IFI financing cross-border energy infrastructure is also significant, account for 1/3 of total IFI financing. We will shortly illustrate some important cross-border energy initiatives supported by IFIs in this region. Cross-border digital connectivity financing is small in both regions, but not insignificant. They focus on strengthening weak links in hinterlands and in low-income countries. Digital transformation financing is to become overall priority in coming years. Country allocation of IFI financing points to some salient features. Large volume of transport financing in Kazakhstan, Georgia, and Azerbaijan, for example, has focused on strengthening the Eurasia transport corridors. Let me now pick up some highlights from the report on Central and West Asia. IFI have been shown to play 3 distinct roles in cross-border connectivity projects in the region. As convener, they facilitated countries to form regional partnerships, such as CAREC program, to align national and regional infrastructure priorities, to foster policy dialogue and knowledge sharing, and to coordinate for closing financing gaps of cross-border projects. As project developer, IFI have focused on long-term engagement to support countries with programmatic investment planning. CAREC Transport Corridors investment planning started in 2007, have continued to evolve and update. IFI have also assisted countries to carry out phased project-by-project implementation, given the cross-border infrastructure project initiatives are often too large to do as one go. As catalytic financier, IFIs have mobilized co-financing, including from the private sector. In Central and West Asia, IFI's own sovereign financing share is about 72% of the overall external financing. But in the energy sector, that share is less than 60%, which means co-financing, including commercial co-financing, accounts for more than 40% of total external financing for the energy sector. IFIs have actively supported private capital participation through various tools such as PPPs. As for transformational work that IFIs are doing in Central West Asia, allow me to give one example of energy connectivity. The first set of initiatives are help region export energy to neighboring regions. The Caspian Green Energy Corridor aims to enhancing energy security across Central Asia, Caspian, and Europe. As Mr. Zhongjing Wang just now noted in his remarks, MCDF is financing the feasibility study of this inter-regional initiative. The successfully completed Trans-Anatolia Natural Gas Pipeline, or TARNAP, contributes to the inter-regional energy security and to the diversification of Azerbaijani economy. The Central Asia and South Asia Regional Electricity Transformation Project, or nicknamed called CASA 1000, is to bring surplus electricity from Kyrgyz Republic and Tajikistan to Afghanistan and Pakistan. IFIs have been closely involved in these initiatives to develop projects and structure suitable financing. As we can see, different modalities are adopted depending on regional context. IFIs are also working with the Central Asia countries to build a regional power pool that is based on the legacy Central Asia power systems. Again, different models are applied to implement these regional initiatives. Reflecting the findings of the report and the feedback from IFI sector focus, this slide highlights the key recommendations for further improving cross-border connectivity with priorities on both hard and soft infrastructure. It is particularly worth noting the cross-cutting priorities to deepen regional coordination, to strengthen technical assistance for project preparation and project readiness, and to continue investing in knowledge and analytics to respond to changing regional dynamics. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shanbin, for covering Central and West Asia. We now move for the Southeast Asia report. Let me introduce Mr. Zhuzhong Zhuang, Senior Advisor of MCDF. In 2010 to 2018, he served as ADB's Deputy Chief Economist and Deputy Director General of the Economic Research and Regional Cooperation Department. Zhuzhong, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I will walk through the remaining slides focusing on Southeast Asia. A key feature of the Southeast Asia's approach to enhancing cross-border connectivity is strong reliance on regional cooperation. Robust connectivity is the foundation of the three pillars of ASEAN community. Regional cooperation, whether at the ASEAN level or under its sub-regional programs, aligns country efforts and overcome coordination challenges typical for cross-border projects. Now, at the same time, strategic initiatives and the mega projects provide roadmaps for investment. Now, this includes in the transport, ASEAN Highway Network, Singapore-Kunming Railway Link, and the economic corridor development. In energy, ASEAN Power Grid. And in ICT, various master plans and framework agreements guiding digital integration. But despite strong political will and encouraging progress, the region continues to face challenges in improving cross-border connectivity in areas of financing, in decision-making and planning, and in project implementation. Now, how are IFIs supporting Southeast Asia in improving cross-border connectivity? In hardware infrastructure, between 2010 and 2024, 7 IFIs with operations in the region approved a total of 63 projects. Of the 41 transport projects, 33 were roads, with the rest in other subsectors. 2/3 of the road projects supported economic corridor development in GMS. In energy, IFIs invested in renewables and transmission lines, all supporting cross-border power trading in line with the ASEAN power grid. In ICT, they invested in satellites that connect to the remote areas and underserved populations, as well as data centers, telecom towers, and optical cables. As the CEO Wang said in his remarks, a key value added of IFIs is their support for soft cross-border infrastructure that will maximize the value of hard infrastructure. Now, in Southeast Asia, To support soft cross-border infrastructure, the 7 IFIs approved a total of 35 projects, including project loans and policy-based lending, and 60 technical assistant projects, the so-called TAs. Now, these TAs are mostly grants provided by or through Asian Development Bank. Now, these loan projects and TAs supported the studies on sector strategies and master plans, transport and trade facilitation, custom and border crossing modernization, among others. In addition, many hard projects involve soft components, such as introducing road safety measures and designing financing schemes for road maintenance. Now, how have IFI supported projects performed? Now, here we look at the economic internal rate of return, also called EIRR, and for those completed ones, we look at the overall performance ratings. In the case of roads, 25 projects reported an EIRR, ranging from 9% to 43%, as you can see from the chart on the right, all above the required threshold level by each IFI, with an average of 20%. So average EIR is 20%. All hard projects approved and completed during this period, with project completion or independent evaluation data available, 8 in total, achieved successful ratings. On the other hand, we also noted most of these projects experienced implementation delay, with an average delay of 34 months. The study provides a list of recommendations on future priorities of IFI support for cross-border connectivity infrastructure in Southeast Asia, based on consultations with sector leads of the IFIs. In transport for hard infrastructure, they can explore more opportunities in railways, in green ports and airports, and in advanced logistics, while continuing to support roads along economic corridors by focusing on missing links. For soft infrastructure, one priority is to support the implementation of cross-border transport agreements. In energy, the priority is to support the ASEAN power grid while pushing for energy reforms. In ICT, they should continue to support the last-mile digital connectivity while improving business environment for private capital. The report also identified several cross-cutting issues, including the need for support for project preparation and readiness, I think Xianping already mentioned, and for in-depth case studies to draw lessons, and for investing in knowledge and analytics. So let me stop from here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dudong. Our next speaker, Murtaza Sayed, will present the G20 report. Murtaza is the head of Ecosystem and the Economics Department of the AIIB. He served as Deputy Governor at the State Bank of Pakistan. And prior to this, Murtaza worked with the International Monetary Fund, IMF, for 16 years. I now invite Mortaza, please.
Thanks very much, Jenny, and a very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and a warm welcome to this event that we are co-hosting with MCDF, with which AIIB has a very close and collaborative relationship. I realize I'm standing between you and a very excellent panel, so I'm going to try to be a bit quick. I would like to give you a little bit of a perspective on the work that we have been doing at AIIB for the G20 on cross-border infrastructure. And before I do that, I just wanted to reflect a little bit on why connectivity is important for the AIIB. Indeed, connectivity is a key part of our mandate as a modern 21st century MDB, and we have a target of about 25 to 30% of our financing portfolio to go towards such projects by 2030. So we're very serious about connectivity. And these projects are important to us because they enhance regional integration among Asian economies, as well as between Asia and the global economy. And this kind of connectivity is vital for improving the lives of people because it expands access to markets, it enhances opportunities for mutually beneficial trade, and also leads to efficiency gains. And at the same time, cross-border infrastructure helps to protect regional public goods like security, water resources, and the environment. However, because it involves more than one country, infrastructure like electricity lines, railway connections, roads, bridges, shared digital connections across national borders is very difficult to plan, coordinate, and finance. And this creates an important role for MDBs like AIIB to bring countries together. So we're very pleased that over the last 2 years, AIIB has been tasked by the G20 to prepare reports on the topic of cross-border infrastructure for their membership. And this is the work that I would like to introduce to you today. Last year, under the Brazilian presidency, we led a G20 report together with the EBRD and Inter-American Development Bank, which proposed a framework that practitioners can use to guide them about what they need to consider when they're thinking about infrastructure projects that are cross-border in nature. Our framework is built on 3 pillars, and these 3 pillars address the key barriers that cross-border infrastructure projects face. The first category of barriers, which is on the bottom left, stem from the fact that the costs and benefits of these projects vary across the countries involved, and therefore the incentives for participation are very diverse. These kinds of barriers are covered under the first pillar of our framework, which deals with the economic rationale and planning of the project. The second category of barriers has to do with the short-term horizon that policymakers typically have due to the electoral cycle, as well as the difficulties created by the fact that countries have different levels of capacity and diverse legal and regulatory systems that make it very hard to have a harmonized approach. These kinds of barriers are covered under the second pillar of our framework, which deals with political support and governance. And the third category of barriers stems from the fact that countries have different credit ratings, varied levels of financial development, and unequal levels of access to finance from international markets, which makes it challenging to finance cross-border infrastructure projects. And these kind of barriers are covered under the third pillar of our framework, which deals with what you need to do to fund and manage cross-border infrastructure projects. So what we did for the G20 last year was to apply this conceptual framework to real-life cross-border projects in the energy, transport, digital, and water sectors across the world, including in Asia, Central Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America. And this allowed us to come up with recommendations for what practitioners need to do in order to deliver good cross-border infrastructure. So what I'll do in the rest of the time that I have is to give you just a very high-level flavor of some of the key recommendations in the report. There are many more in our report, but in the interest of time, I will focus on 9 of them. So it's not quite the 10 commandments, but close enough. First, it's important to connect these projects to a broader vision for regional cooperation that results in benefits in terms of reduced transaction costs, technology transfer, and FDI. This was done very well, for example, with the CPAC power grid connection in Central America and the Karawanke motorway tunnel between Austria and Slovenia. Second, you must have a very good understanding of how the costs and benefits are distributed across the countries involved. For this, you can use modern analytical tools like geospatial analysis and general equilibrium models. And third, it is important to mobilize and empower a cross-border team of experts to do feasibility studies and financial planning. You must also make sure that there is a thorough process of consultation with all key stakeholders throughout the planning and implementation of the project. And good examples of this include the Lesotho Highlands Project Water Commission and the stakeholder engagement plan developed for the monsoon wind power project between Lao PDR and Vietnam. Let me now turn to the main high-level recommendations for what to do in order to ensure political support and robust governance. Our fourth recommendation is to lock in and sustain political support beyond the current administrations, since these projects take time and are likely to span more than one political cycle. This can be done by signing a binding cooperation agreement, like the Presidential Declaration for the Capricorn Bioceanic Trade Corridor connecting Argentina, Brazil, Chile, and Paraguay. MDBs can also help sustain this political support through their backing, as was done by the EBRD for the Middle Corridor transport route in Central Asia. And fifth, an intergovernmental institutional arrangement needs to be put in place to account for differences in government capacity and to facilitate decision-making. Good examples here are the Joint Construction Committee that was put in place for the Karawanke Tunnel and the Regional Commission for Electricity Connection that was established among the diverse countries participating in the CPEC project in Central America. Sixth, an intergovernmental agreement is also needed to align the diverse policy, legal, and regulatory frameworks across the participating countries. This can range from a simple MOU to a more formal treaty laying down the division of labor, how costs and royalties will be distributed, and how any disputes will be resolved. Good examples here are the MOU signed by China and Lao PDR on railway cooperation and the comprehensive treaty signed for the Highlands Water Project between Lesotho and South Africa. Finally, what should practitioners do in terms of finance and management? Our seventh recommendation is that public funds will always be needed to bring in private investors, but these funds should be used judiciously and in a way that does not create contingent liabilities. The Middle Corridor funding raised by individual Central Asian countries is a good example of this. Eighth, MDBs can help by providing their funding as well as by issuing guarantees in a way that mitigates risk and thus brings in private capital. This was done by AIIB and the ADB in the monsoon wind power project, helping mobilize a sizable syndicated commercial bank loan. And finally, the ninth recommendation is to explore creative ways in which these projects can be made bankable in order to make it worthwhile for private sector investors. This can be done through stable revenue streams from user tariffs and tolls, as well as asset transfers through PPP arrangements. Climate finance is another large pool of private money that can also be leveraged in the case of cross-border projects with climate resilience features. So there you have the 9 commandments on what to keep in mind when implementing a cross-border infrastructure project. I'm happy to say that we are continuing our work as part of this year's G20. We have been tasked by the South African presidency to work with our World Bank and African Development Bank partners on how to implement the recommendations from last year's report. And for this, we are developing a practical toolkit for practitioners of central bank of cross-border infrastructure, which will be finalized in the fall. For more information on last year's report and this year's toolkit, please take a look at the flyer that I think you will find on your seats. If you don't have it, there are some copies in the back as well. And let me just end by saying that cross-border infrastructure is the ultimate reflection of the powerful truth that our destinies are bound together and that today's pressing challenges can only be addressed through regional and multilateral cooperation. I do hope you will find our work useful. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Murtaza. We now move on to the other highlight of this event, which is the panel discussion to be led by our moderator, Zhang Ping Tia. We call him JP, who is currently the lead economist and the manager of the economics department, responsible for economic analysis at AIIB, as well as AIIB's flagship publication, the Asian Infrastructure Finance Report. And he was previously with the Singapore Ministry of Finance. JP, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jenny. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First, let me again thank CEO Zongjing, Spencer, all the organizing team, and Jenny for organizing this event. I want to really echo what Murtaza just said. AIIB has a really symbiotic relationship with MCDF. MCDF supports so many AIIB's projects to the benefit of our members. Let me first introduce now the speakers one by one and then invite them to take their seats on stage. First, let me introduce the Deputy Finance Minister for Laos, His Excellency Sulivat Suvarnajongkam. Minister Sulivat has an extensive portfolio in Laos, including being the Deputy Governor of the Central Bank, the Director General of External Finance and Debt Management. Minister has consistently spoken on the needs to make Laos a land link rather than landlocked country, which is most relevant for the panel today. Minister Sulivat, please. The second person I would like to invite is His Honorable Mr. Sultan Rahim Sonda, the Chairman of the State Committee for Investment and State Property Management. Chairman Sultan was previously the first Deputy Minister for Energy and Water. He was also Tajikistan Ambassador to India. Now, listen carefully, he is an esteemed water diplomat, championing water issues in Central Asia, including the efforts to save Aral Sea. Chairman. Egypt's Minister for Finance, Mr. Kuchak, cannot join us today, but we have his representative, Mr. Atir Honura, the Director of PPP Unit within the Ministry of Finance. I have watched the evolution of Egypt's PPP framework over the years, and it's finally good to meet the person behind all this effort. I had dinner with him a little bit last night on how he mobilized resources for his projects, PPP projects in Egypt. Egypt is a transcontinental country, again, very critical to connectivity. Atir, please. The fourth person I'd like to introduce is Manuela Ferro, the VP of World Bank for East Asia and Pacific. I have the honor of meeting her several times already. Manuela has been a great supporter of AIIB, coming to many of our annual meetings and today as an MCDF panelist. Now, this is important. She is both an economist and an engineer. Beat that. She brings over 3 decades of experience in development. If you look at her portfolio, poverty reduction, operations support, policies and partnership across a multitude of countries, I cannot find a better person to represent in this panel. Last but not least, let me introduce Mr. Gianpieri Leoncini, the Executive Vice President of CAF. As the EVP, Gianpieri oversees the operations planning, budget, impact assessment, infrastructure planning, HR corporate strategy, and covers a big region in the Western Hemisphere. Gianpieri's extensive experience in the Western Hemisphere would be valuable to the panel, especially on Asia and Western Hemisphere outside of Asia connectivity. Gianpieri. Hello? Let me now take the floor and have a few rounds of question and answers. As you will see from the panel, we have a mix of both country representatives as well as IFIs. I hope to make this round, many rounds interesting for the audience, and then we have a very good discussion. First, my first question is really to the country representatives. Maybe I start with Minister Sulivat. Minister Sulivat, maybe I invite you to describe one project that is important and critical to your country. It can be a project that you have done it could be a project you wish for in the future. What are the challenges? What are the benefits? One most critical project for your country.
Thank you, JP, and thank you for the question. I would rather choose some of the projects rather than one project. It depends on also the timing, also the impact those projects has been in Laos, especially in the last 10 years. So you have been implementing many projects that are considered as very, very crucial for Laos, including the East-West Economic Corridor projects, of course, funded by our development partners, including multilateral partners like AIIB, as well as bilateral partners as well. So this road construction project linking the East and West is considered as a very crucial for the economic development. Of course, the opportunity, of course, it can bring benefit to both the economic development in the region, especially the northern part of Laos, and also helping boost the economic growth, as well as the transportation and the cross-border activities, of course, between countries in the region, as well as also contributed to the poverty reduction as well. So these are considered as a very, very crucial benefit and important benefit to Laos. Talking about the recent development in relation to cross-border infrastructure development, we have seen the Lao-China Railway, which you already presented earlier. So it's been a very significant project that can address, I would say, that can address the bottlenecks of the landlocked of Laos, being landlocked country, to land-linked countries by linking not only the road transportation, but also the railway transportation from the north to the middle, as well as we plan also to link with other countries in the region. So these can reduce not only the time of traveling, but also it can bring more confidence of an investment, for example, the FDI along the highway, as well as reduce the cost by up to 40%, the cost of transportation, and attract more tourism, as well as bringing more revenue and in promoting the more export to the region. So these projects are considered as very important for Laos, related to the cross-border transportation and also the cross-border infrastructure development in our country.
Yeah, Minister, thank you so much, and for reminding us that transport is used to bring in FDI, tourism is not an end, but a means to the end. Chairman, may I just invite you also reflect what are the key priorities for your country?
Thank you. It's my pleasure for being part of this wonderful panel today. And if we're talking about the only one project, it should be definitely Rogun hydropower plant in Tajikistan with 3,600 megawatt capacity. Will be the biggest hydropower plant in Central Asia, and with 335 meters, the dam height will be the tallest dam in the world. The project is currently under construction. It's an ongoing project being financed for the moment only from the budget of the government of the Republic of Tajikistan, but we are working closely with around 12 IFIs and the patronage of the World Bank to mobilize financial resources to complete the project. I mean, as soon as possible, let's say. The project, which is really great in terms of giving the big benefit not only for Tajikistan, but also for the entire Central Asia region, and even the countries in South Asia, including Afghanistan and Pakistan, because the project, once it is completed, is able to generate 17 billion kilowatt hour per year green and clean energy. And this is actually one of the maybe best advantages of this hydropower plant. But in parallel with generating green energy, the project is able to manage water resources in sustainable manner, which is really very important in the conditions of the climate change impact when we have been witnessing fluctuation of the hydrological cycle and different challenges, including the droughts and the floods, and the project is really capable to manage this kind of risks and to reduce the risk of these floods and droughts. But as well, also, Rogun is important in terms of the mitigation, since it was calculated. I was part of the Tajikistan team to make the feasibility study of this project in 2011-2014, again under the leadership of the World Bank, and it was calculated that the amount of the electricity which will be produced by Rogun, if it is done or produced in the coal-fired power plant, the amount of the CO2 emissions to the atmosphere will be around 14 million tons per year. And in case of the using of oil, it will be 10 million tons per year. And in case of the using of the natural gas, it will be around 7 million tons per year. That would be additional effect of the Rogun project in terms of the mitigation. So the project is really beneficial, and indeed the process is very challenging still. So we hope much that in very soon we will be able to start also receiving the financial support of all IFIs, since the many agreements are already signed, and we just wait, I think, the couple more months to manage all those conditions which had been highlighted in the conditions in the agreements between the Tajikistan and the World Bank, which was signed last year.
Thank you for bringing out the mitigation aspects of cross-border project. This is great. Atia, maybe I pass the floor to you to talk about the projects, priority projects of for your country, a transcontinental one, Egypt.
Thank you. Actually, in Egypt, we have a lot of connectivity projects that already had implemented, and some of which we're planning to do. You know, when we're talking about connectivity projects, there are some projects that are much more easier than others, which are the project that is done within the country of the decision of the country, like the ports, for instance, or the dry ports or the airports. However, in implementation, it requires some cooperation with other entities, but it's decision of the country and implemented within the country. Other projects, I mean, we've done like this two main projects, which was the first in Egypt, which are dry ports. Dry ports in Egypt was very new. We started the first dry port under the PP structure 2021, and the second one is already closed, and we're planning for the in the procurement process of the third one and the fourth one. There is a pipeline for that. Challenges that we faced in this was the legal framework. This is a new activity on Egypt. Egypt have got long coasts. Dry ports is new. So we didn't have a legal definition for dry ports. And given that the port have a lot of different entities working in it, like the customs, like the inspection entities, like the security entities, okay? All this are working within the dry port, but we didn't have a definition, a legal definition of the dry port. So we have to work this first, then we have to continue the project. One of the future projects that I just want to mention its name, and we'll talk about it in a later stage, is the second kind of connectivity, which is two countries working together, or sometimes more than one country working together. And here it comes the different kind of challenges and different kind of arrangements, which is something like the project that we're working on of connecting submarine cable between Egypt and Greece to transfer or to mobilize the green energy to Europe. Okay, this is a mega project, around $4 billion. The studies, feasibility studies, around $20 million. Okay, it's a big project, and there is a lot of challenges that we're working on now. I'll keep this for another round. But this is one of the important projects that have a lot of key players and a lot of counterparties that you have to take care of. Thank you.
Thank you, Atia. Maybe in the next round, be a bit specific on what is the link that you hope to see in that cross-border energy projects. Let me turn my attention now to our speakers from IFI. Maybe I start with Manuela. Manuela, my question to you is that you have been the VP for East Asia. What are the key trends you are observing for the connectivity projects in your part of the world? The key mega trends in terms of connectivity for this part of the world.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. I see trends that are, in a way, encouraging and generating greater benefits to economic integration and greater mobility of goods and services and people within this broader region. And in fact, as we see global value chains changing and production moving from some locations to others, this concept of diversification of sources of inputs, but also diversification of destinations for products and services requires much stronger integration, much stronger connectivity, both physical, regulatory, and also, obviously, infrastructure, the underpinning infrastructure. There are still, and I think I saw in the report, the very nice report that was presented, a reference to the ASEAN power grid. There are tremendous opportunities to do better on energy, in a way the same logic that is driving Rogun, where everybody wins. And yet, you need to have the political will, country by country, to make that happen. What we see is perhaps some momentum in that effort. We are working very closely with ASEAN to make that a reality, also with the Asian Development Bank. I think AIIB can also be a very helpful partner. And this is something that can benefit the region tremendously on the energy side. On transport, I think there's a bit more movement. Energy is more complex, but it's also the opportunity to bring in more renewables to a region that relies heavily on exports that will be priced according to carbon content eventually. So that investment is a long-term investment that is worthwhile. That is a tremendous opportunity that we are part of.
So shifting supply chains, diversification may require even more connectivity. And then when you have a proper carbon pricing, allows trade to flow according to the comparative advantage and so on. They're very, very good points. Same question to you, Jean-Pierre. What are the key trends and on the connectivity projects, mega trends that you're observing in your part of the world and any impact on Asia? Jean-Pierre?
Thank you, JP, and thank you very much to MCDF and AIIB for inviting us. It's a wonderful opportunity for us to bring the voice of Latin America to this forum. Well, I might as well give some broader context on Latin America to the audience. Whereas Asia, in general, has 60% of its trade intra-regional, we are doing below 20%, and there are several geographic and historical reasons that explain this. And these challenges remain in terms of infrastructure, roads, trade facilitation, institutional cooperation. But to this, we add new challenges regarding digital inequalities, like 240 million people, that's about 30% of the population offline, and strategic vulnerabilities in connectivity, like 80% of the region's internet traffic flows through servers outside the region. So in terms of trends, one of the key trends is that physical connectivity, of course, remains a backbone of integration, but now we have to see it in terms of logistic corridor, energy interconnections, and transport networks. Then the technological transformation is reshaping the very foundation of cooperation, and we have to accelerate the digital adoption in public services, education, health, commerce, etc. And something very interesting is that subnational leadership is emerging as a key driver of integration in Latin America, and strengthening local and regional governments is critical to ensure that integration is inclusive. Some of the key priorities that come from this are the need to strengthen multi-level governance, invest both in physical and digital infrastructure, and building a regional ecosystem to enable interoperable public platforms, and advancing regulatory harmonization is also key to enable a secure regional environment for digital services. So to sum up, digital transformation will not be a substitute, but it's the next frontier of regional integration from our perspective.
Thank you so much, Jean-Pierre. Logistical corridors, energy corridor, tech transformation, changing the way integration is taking place in your part of the world. Yep. So Atia, can I come back with you on the second round of the question? Because I think I want to pick up on something you mentioned, that you are working on a project with different countries, and I want to invite you to describe to me what is the best practices, what are the governance structures you have seen in terms of getting countries together that has worked well? What are the best practices?
Thank you. The project that I'm talking about, I've just taken it as an example because it's one of the sophisticated projects in preparation and implementation, which is the interconnection submarine cable. Because it's not a single country decision. As they say, it's two countries at least. In this project, it's not, as they call, takes two for tango. It's maybe 3 and 4, because this cable is going through the marine borders or the marine territories of other countries. So they have to get consent from these countries. And here comes the political part of the government. Have to set this first before we start the feasibility studies. Given that these are one of the challenges that are at a very early stage, because it will make it or break it, because it might reroute the project or the cable, and accordingly more capex might take place. So this is an initial preparation. When we pass this and we start doing the feasibility study, it's very important. I'll take one phrase from one of the presentations that I've made before, which is the institutional arrangement. This is very crucial and very important, because by the end of the day, two parties are managing the project. Two entities benefiting from this project. So they have to have full and complete arrangements and understanding, and working with the same wavelength and same pace. Definitely, the countries doesn't have the same capacities in their governmental entities. So an assessment of the institutional framework at both countries should take place during the pre-feasibility study. And there is any capacity gap here or there, or institutional arrangement, institutional framework that might include or add or amend any of the structures of any of these countries, should take place in the pre-feasibility studies, and put recommendation for this. The third thing is the legal framework. Hypothetically, if this project, one of the solution of this project, for instance, is to be operated under the private sector, PPP structure. What if the other side does not have their constitution or their laws does not allow private sector to operate such kind of projects? This is a conflict. How can you do it? Then you have to study. All this should be studied thoroughly and come to a conclusion or a structure that would fit with all. All this in the pre-feasibility studies or the project preparation studies, as we say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for also connecting to many points Murtaza mentioned about getting the political will, that the submarine passes through many countries, and then also the gain sharing, how to distribute the gains of all the countries that the submarine is passing through. I thought that was a very good intervention from you. So maybe I also invite Minister Sulivat. What are the kind of institutional arrangements, best practices you have seen in your part of the world that you think should be continued, or if inefficiencies that you hope to see improve also? Yeah.
Thank you. I would start with, I think it's quite fortunate for our region that we have our regional arrangement. It is as a regional cooperation, because we have the same, also we share the same policies, and as a regional, we have also developed key projects, also including the project that we are doing with the World Bank in CREX. It is a Southeast Asia regional economics and connectivity projects, and as well as we have the GMS. So we have the East-West Economic Corridor, and also North-South Corridor as well. So all of these have played a very important initiative for our country to implement the projects, and cross-border infrastructure development. So secondly, it's about the political views, of course. We have to align policies between the countries surrounding, with our neighboring countries as well, because we're talking about the linking the infrastructure all together, and including also the border activities as well, how we can facilitate the trade, facilitate the transaction, and facilitate all other things if we were to develop these projects. So especially we think that we have to have a coordination, and each country needs to set up a special committee, I would say, an implementation committee, for both, both sides, internally as well as other countries, so that we can coordinate on the implementation, as well as how can we monitor that the project can run well and also can bring the most benefit to both countries. Yes.
Thank you. Mutasa, commandment number 10, set up committees on both sides to make sure that it functions well. Yeah, thank you very much, Minister. You mentioned about the Ragun project and exporting electricity, CASA, and so on. Maybe I will invite you to share with us a kind of best practices or things that haven't worked so well for you and you hope to see improved.
Thank you. I would like also to refer to the political will, because the case of Central Asia is a bit specific. That actually we were part of the Soviet Union, and we were connected, too much connected, through the transport, energy, water infrastructure, and the other infrastructures. And it seems that for our countries, it was maybe easiest way to continue such a partnership and to build our economy based on that connectivity. But unfortunately, after a few years of the sovereignty, we gained sovereignty, the countries of the region started to implement self-sufficient policy. So it brought to the situation when the many infrastructure, the regional one, they had not been maintained in well manner, or some of them unfortunately were destroyed. And that created really a big economical losses. In 2006, I think there was a UNDP Human Development Report, the first time I saw the figures about the economical losses, and it was calculated 1.75 billion USD because of the lack of cooperation. That was the economical losses because of the lack of cooperation, not because of the lack of infrastructure. We had an infrastructure, but we didn't use it. The second time it was calculated, it was 2017. The Delphi University made this calculation with the Central Asia Regional Environmental Center. 4.75 billion USD, the economical losses. That was partially because of the lack of cooperation, because of the lack of the political will, and partially it was lack of the infrastructure. And I just before this session deep-seeked we say, we Google, now it's DeepSeek, so just what is the economical losses of Central Asia countries because of the lack of infrastructure and cooperation, and the assessment by World Bank and AIIB said that it is 10 to 20 billion USD, which makes 10-15% of the regional GDP. This is the figures about the lack of infrastructure. And partially because of the ROGON, because it was calculated that the ROGON could bring additional economical benefit to the countries of the region for around, I think, 2.75 billion USD annually. So, my experience that first we need indeed the political will, which could be based on the building the trust. We need the trust between the countries of the region, which could be built, from my point of view, also when we are able to show the economical benefit of the cooperation between the countries. In terms of the institutions, I would like to highlight maybe the Interstate Commission for Water Coordination, since the water resources management in our region was assessed and still, I think, one of the most sensitive issues in the region. And many experts in early 90s were basically predicting that the water could become a source of conflict in Central Asia, but thanks to the political support of our leaders and the institution we built in 1992, Interstate Commission for Water Coordination, so we could manage water resources so far without any conflict, very fortunately, and I hope much that we will be able to manage further, having now the political will, the trust, and the confidence between the countries of the region, which could bring the additional benefit. Of course, I can highlight maybe many other institutions sectorally or politically. For the last 6 or 7 years, maybe we built a new platform, which is consultation of the Central Asia presidents, being held annually. So the platform which bring together the leaders of the countries of the region, and discussing all those, the hot topics, and to make a decision. I think that is really good expertise and experience which could be taken into account in the other regions to build the sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. That's a very powerful point.
Including ROGON, because without the support of the region countries, it would be impossible to follow. With construction of this hydropower plant, Madam VP knows the procedures, actually all the banks, the AIIB, I would like also to take this opportunity to thank the World Bank, indeed, the AIIB and AIIB, which allocated already 270 million USD for this project, and is going to be increased until 500. Without the support of the countries of the region to build this kind of projects, it would be really impossible. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Turning a source of conflict into cooperation, and solving the issues together. Let me now turn attention again to the IFI speakers, maybe starting with Jean-Pierre this time. The MCDF report highlights the roles that different IFIs can play. What are the unique roles you can play, CAF can play in terms of intergovernment coordination, and what are also the kind of good practice that you hope to see? Manuela, that will be your question too, so you can start preparing. Yeah, Jean-Pierre, please.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, CAF, I think, promotes a renewed and strengthened vision of regional integration as a driver of development in Latin America and the Caribbean. And, well, this stems from the fact that it is, first of all, in our founding mandate since 1968, we have had regional integration as a key objective. And we have developed a strong practice that couples financing early-stage pre-investment and strategic advisory services. And, well, as was mentioned in the G20 report, we also have specific tools that we use for this purpose, based on our Directorate for Regional Integration. Colleague, the manager, is here in the audience. We have dedicated agendas, including comprehensive border management program, Latin American regional logistics program. We have agile-specific methodologies. I mentioned integration logistic corridor, roadmaps, country-level infrastructure profiles. Then, and particular to us, pre-investment financing mechanism, which is a non-reimbursable technical cooperation fund to support pre-investment stages. Now, in terms of good practices, I definitely think that we have the ability to align national goals and regional opportunities. And for this, establishing partnership with other institutions has been key. And I would like to highlight in this regard the partnership with MCDF. Like having all what I've said, our baggage, our set of tools, our connection with national governments in Latin America, and then establishing this partnership for MCDF brought a really positive environment, and in the last 2 years has allowed us to approve 13 projects on pre-investment, adding more than 17 million US dollars. And as CEO mentioned, it's 35% of the grant money from MCDF that is coming to Latin America through this partnership. And we have major projects for the region, such as the Tocumen airport expansion, the coastal railroad in Peru that will connect to the port of Chancay, that is the largest port in the South Pacific to connect with Asia. And optic fiber cable initiatives for El Salvador to connect El Salvador with to improve its connectivity with a regional connection. And this has already led to a $150 million US project to finance the studies. And the cable to the Antarctic also for scientific research, which we are doing in MCDF partnership. So I think this good practice is something we are going to carry through and has a lot of promise for integration between Latin America and Asia.
Jean-Pierre, thank you. Thank you for those examples, best practices, and those kind of keywords in institutional arrangement. Manuela?
Thank you. So a few ideas and a few practices we are implementing. The first is to be very deliberate, and I think I saw that in one of the presentations, in articulating the benefits, the mutual benefits of the intervention. Sometimes countries resist and there's no agreement because they think one is getting a much better deal than the other. And that is essential for, we are of course not in the political debate, but we can inform it. And so being more explicit on that. The second is, we talked about the benefits, but I think we need to talk about the costs as well. And so what we have started to do in the World Bank is to introduce financial incentives, both in the concessional arm of the World Bank, IDA, and also in the middle income side of the World Bank, IBRD. Each of them have incentives that are pricing incentives for regional projects that have cross-border benefits. For example, in the case of Laos, Cambodia, they have access to IDA, the concessional resources, and therefore regional projects that include them have an additional allocation and lower pricing. On IBRD, we've now introduced the same. The first ones we've done with that feature are for Indonesia. We think that that can help balance and sometimes move the incentives in the right direction. Third one is the anchoring in regional political agreements that exist, that are solid, that are recognized, and that are, and therefore help us as a multilateral to hook into a political process that we ourselves are not driving, but are very helpful to move the initiative along.
Thank you. Thank you for articulating this and also the innovations, financing innovations that World Bank is bringing in for cross-border projects. We're running a little bit short of time, but let me promise you, let me have a very fast, quick fire round for the participants. And anybody, let's start from the country representatives. Anyone can speak. Quick fire round. Can you quickly summarize what you value most from IFI support on cross-border projects? What can we do better for you? Maybe I start with you.
Thank you very much. I think the first is financing, indeed, because the cross-border infrastructure needs a lot of money. Second, I think the IFIs brings the international standard that promoting high quality infrastructure. And the next is building the confidence. And the final one, I think it's a capacity building, because bringing or coming to the local community, working with the governments or local communities really through this kind of projects. So the banks, IFIs could build the good capacity on the national level. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Minister, what can IFI and MCDF do for you?
I will have 4 points. One is the best practices, of course, with the IFIs can also coordinate with each other, especially from each different regional IFIs can coordinate in this regard and draw the lessons from those projects implemented in different countries, in different regions, and you have a much richer experience, and that can be applied to the implementation for the new projects. And secondly, I think the funding is another key issue. IFIs may also discuss and how we can bring the funding more affordable to the country. I mean, to the lesson of the cost of the project, as well as thirdly, I would say that I have seen in a presentation as well how we can include the component, the soft component, so meant to better manage the project implementation and also the maintenance of the project for the sustainable. For sustainability of those projects. And lastly, I think the capacity building that you can help the countries improve, including the project preparation and project implementation, and also the sustainability issue that I already mentioned. That's
Capacity building, same point you mentioned, seems like a very important topic. Atia, anything MCDF and IFIs can do for Egypt?
That's actually the IFI's role in these kind of projects, whether it's a government finance project or a PEP, is very crucial. And actually, the role of the IFIs here changes over the cycle of the project, starting from the project preparation phase, the implementation phase, or the construction phase, and the implementation phase. The role of the IFIs is very important and changes in the pre-preparation and the project preparation phase, rather than grants or project financing the pre-feasibility studies. It's very important to have their input in the risks and bankability issues to take care while structuring the project, so the project would be a bankable project at the end of the day. So this is one of the most important roles of the IFIs during the project preparation. And on the other hand, there's creating new tools for de-risking this project. During the financing and construction, that's strictly financing the project, putting some, using some de-risking tools, faster disbursement process. All these are important for during the construction. The last thing, the last phase, which is the implementation. The IFIs should always have an eye on the implementation of the project. Actually, they are financing almost 60 or 70% or even more of this project. So they have to have an eye on it, because they will be an additional monitoring mechanism to ensure the success of this project and the benefit of this project. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Keep an eye on the project. Jean-Pierre, Manuela, having heard what the countries need, any last words from you in a very quick fire way to respond? Any last words? I invite you. Yeah.
No, well, I couldn't agree more with what I've heard. IFIs can combine technical capabilities and sharing risks. And the essential support we provide is in the early stages also to help mature the projects and supplying to the need of coordination mechanisms that facilitate collaboration among institutions. So yeah, we stand ready to work in a very close partnership.
Thank you. Manuela, the lady speaks last always.
Let me pick up on a few points that were made that I agree with. Obviously, project preparation, financing is always helpful. Some of these projects are quite expensive to prepare, so it helps. Then I think capacity building was mentioned. I think platforms such as MCDF is very helpful in that sense. I want to highlight the point on supervision. These projects tend to be very complex. Most of the problems develop during implementation. And it's during implementation that then the politics resurfaces again. And it is at that time that I believe that partnerships are very helpful to move this implementation along.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the last word on this. That's what I meant to say. Thank you for giving me the last word on this. Ladies and gentlemen, take a round of applause for our panel. Thank you so much.